Jami. So Jami is going to be talking to us about saving cats and dogs, how I became a data storyteller. Jami is a visual analytics manager at Best Friends Animal Society. After working with traditional BI tools for many years, she quickly fell in love with Tableau as a platform to transform data and ideas into compelling visualizations. She is passionate about making a real difference and engaging the public as she advocates for cats and dogs through data-driven storytelling. Jami, are you there?
I am here.
Awesome.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing and then it's all yours. I'm super excited for your talk.
Let me know if you can see lots of cats, dogs, and kittens.
Very cute. Thank you.
All right, so I'm Jami Delagrange. I work with Best Friends Animal Society. And disclaimer, this presentation contains a lot, some might say excessive amount of cat and dog pictures. So hopefully we have some cat and dog lovers on the call today. This has really been an evolution of an organization as well as my own personal journey. So I'm going to start with just a brief case study on how we tell our story at Best Friends and leave you with a few tips I learned along the way. So if you're not familiar, Best Friends is a national animal welfare organization and the largest animal sanctuary in the US. So our mission, we're dedicated to end the killing of cats and dogs in America's shelters by 2025. We are headquartered in southern Utah, one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. So here are a few pictures and again, some cats and dogs. And we have adoption centers across the country. And our mission is focused on cats and dogs, but we take in all sorts of animals in Utah. So if you ever have a chance or you want to vacation, take a volunteer vacation to the sanctuary, I highly recommend it. So what makes a good data story and what do you need to create one? So data is important. Data is pretty essential to any data story. In 2015, if you would have asked us, how many total animal shelters are there in the US? We kind of knew, we had an idea. We had a lot of people who are out working in the industry, but there is no standard for reporting for animal shelters in the US. And historically, the industry is not very data transparent. So we started kind of on a data journey. We created a team of employees and volunteers that would contact shelters. They would go state by state and try to get these shelter statistics from these places around the country. And they try to do that on a calendar year basis. So it's a continual, we are going out and trying to collect this data because there is no official standard for reporting. And we'll get this in a variety of formats. Some of the larger volume shelters might have a shelter management system where they're just exporting and sending us in this like beautiful, lovely format that we can use. And in some extreme cases, it might be, they're writing their intakes and outcomes on a piece of paper and physically mailing it to us or faxing it to us. We try to encourage them to send us the data in whatever way they're capable of doing. And we take it upon ourselves with the help of a lot of volunteers to put that into a standardized format and manage the data on our side. So now if you ask us in 2020, we definitely have a better understanding of how many shelters are out there. And for a large portion of those shelters, we're collecting their data. And so we're continually building that picture of what does animal sheltering look like in the United States. So the next piece of it is the story. So we always felt like we had a really clear mission and meet in person. And our audience, we started with, well, it's the public. It's just the general public. And that really wasn't specific enough. It's not just the public. This is a public visualization, but it's really pet advocates, people who love animals. Maybe they have pets at home, but they love and care for their pets, but they also care about what's happening to animals in their community as well. So we really spent a lot of time nailing that down and going into detail there. The next thing is, what are we trying to accomplish? What are our different strategies? We want to tell a clear narrative. We want to help people find shelters that are near them. And we want to recognize progress in shelters. We want to celebrate when shelters are doing good, when their numbers are improving. And always for best friends, we have a theme and a brand for our organization that we want a positive message that is actionable. So then finally, we get to the fun part, the Tableau piece, and we want to visualize the story, not just the data. So we're guiding the user. We have the national view, then they drill down to a state view, then they get down to a community view, and finally, the most important piece for us, which is the shelter view. And the story continues through the visualization. We sat down and we planned at each level, we want to highlight some primary information and we want to highlight secondary information. So this is just an example for our shelter view. Is we want to see a snapshot of the shelter statistics. We want to learn more about the shelter. So we provide an emphasis down at the bottom, and we allowed them to share their own narrative. And we also have a button at the bottom where they're able to, the user can go directly to their website. So we want to we want to pull traffic to best friends, but we also want to get people interacting directly with their shelters because they're the ones who need the most help. And secondary information, understanding species priority if we have that information, it's not available for everyone, and then celebrating the progress. Then the next piece is we want to understand how users are engaging. I'm pretty sure this is just not a real question, it's a joke, but I'm sure everyone's experienced, you spend a lot of time and effort building, designing, getting your dashboard or visualization out there, and then eventually people stop using it. And there was all this energy in the beginning, but it kind of, it somewhere got off track. But the most important thing is knowing when that happens and understanding why. So we track our interactions, we measure our engagement, we set goals and objectives. How many views are we getting? Where are people clicking? This is a public visualization, so it's embedded on a web page. So we have the advantage of Google Analytics, but we also have, for like our internal visualizations, we use custom administration views. So we're always aware of if something's wrong, if engagement is falling off, what's the reason for that, and how can we respond to it? And then next is never settle for version 1. Always continue to refine the process. This is one of the first data visualizations that I created at Best Friends. And it's not necessarily the prettiest visualization, but it was huge for us at the time. We had never seen our data before. We had never seen a visualization of our data. In some ways, the data had never been aggregated and combined at that level. So for us at the time, it was huge. But we continued to go through this constant cycle of what data is available, what story do we want to tell, how can we pull that together with the visualization, who can we engage, how are they engaging, and then refine the process. And we do this both for our public visualizations and our internal visualizations. And as much as I love looking at my initial charts from when I first started, I'll just cover it up because I can't leave a slide without a picture of a cat and dog on it. But currently we are in the refine process for our current public visualization that we're looking at. And, we don't ever get it right on first try. do the best we can, obviously, but every iteration we're learning something new. So we're going back and we're looking, what are our strategies? Are we achieving them? We're looking at our engagement and making changes. Are we reaching our goals and objectives? If not, there's a reason why. And so how can we understand that better, and how can we implement a next phase, which we will be doing hopefully next summer for our main public visualization, which is really exciting. So one of the main things I learned through this process is you want to give the users the innovation that they need. I think innovation's a heavily used term out there. And the definition I'm using is innovation is creating new value and or capturing value in a new way. And to me, I really believe innovation does not always equal new technology. Sometimes it's as simple as reimagining exactly what you have, but in a different way. And so I go back to that first visualization. I mean, that was a huge innovation for us in the organization. Because we had never seen it that way before. It was a capability we had never had. So that was really big for us. And then I go into value in a little bit more detail. And if you're familiar with British Bake Off, which I'm a huge fan of, you might recognize like style over substance. And I fully recognize this is a bad visualization, my pie chart down here. But I wanted to make the point that it's more important that you put the substance into it than you spend a ton of time thinking about the style or how it's going to look, making it pretty, or doing the latest, greatest, best thing. And a lot of people are against pie charts, but I think if that's what is going to help the user understand their data or bring the data to them in a way that they've never seen it before, I'm 100% in favor of doing that. And the data is not real in this pie chart per se. It's based on my opinion. But there was a time at Best Friends that we had just started creating visualizations, and our users really struggled interacting with visuals in detail, and even something like using filters, they weren't comfortable. So initially, to get them comfortable and learning more about the visualizations, we created multiple dashboards where a simple filter could have consolidated it, but we did that to help them understand and build engagement and get them to the point where they were comfortable. So it's a little bit of compromise. And then finally, intentional design is, in my opinion, always greater than the latest visualization trend. And one thing that from some trainings, a quote that I really love is, don't use someone else's solution for your problem. And I think that's really important. It's great to look at Tableau Public in the gallery and gain all this inspiration. But something I've really had to work on for myself is trying to solve my problem with someone else's solution and try to fit my data into a visual, or, try to force a visualization for aesthetic purposes that doesn't really fit. And I think that doesn't add value. So that's the most important thing to keep in mind. And finally, balance mentorship and in small text. This is more than Tableau. And what I mean by that, I think it's important to find a mentor and be a mentor. And one of the tipping points in my career was learning from people who are not Tableau developers, designers, copywriters, marketing and digital experts, people who know how to engage an audience, and really having conversations with them, asking them questions, almost interviewing them to just pull as much information about what they do and how they do it. How did they tell their stories? And I will be the first to say I absolutely love Tableau, but you're not going to become a great data storyteller if you only focus on your Tableau skills. So that was really important for me. And of course, you want to learn from Tableau experts as well, but just wanted to kind of approach it from a different angle. And something that's really cool for best friends, I mentioned that the industry as a whole is not very data transparent, but we've kind of been putting more data out there, and we've been encouraging shelters to share more data, and they're actually coming to us for mentorship. So some of these smaller shelters or large shelters who maybe struggle with their data management, or they don't have the resource to create their own data visualization, they're actually coming to us and asking for help and trying to improve on their capabilities, and they want to share their story with their communities, their audience, and they want to be able to do that through us. So that's a really cool shift in the industry that we've been able to recognize over the last year or so. And probably a little bit quick and early, but this is my crew, my four-legged family. So Wrangler, Whiskey, and Willie. And I'll open it up for questions.
I don't see any questions coming through yet, Jamie, but loads of people in the chat, agreeing with you with the points you've made. I think that pie chart you showed was perfect, right? It kind of sums things up really well. And I think what you were saying about like starting small and starting off with like simple views with filters and just getting your users up to speed that way is such a valid point. I mean, quite often I've created dashboards for clients and they've just been overwhelmed because they're so new to Tableau. They just don't know how to go from, let's say, Excel to something like that with kind of like no like stepping stones in between. So yeah. We've got one question. We've got questions coming in. So we have a question from Anne Jackson. What tips do you have for working on with an audience? Sorry, what tips do you have on working with an audience around an emotionally charged data set or topic?
Yeah, I think I'm grateful for best friends in that regard, keeping the message positive and actionable. I think it can get very emotionally charged. I mean, I think we've all seen even around animals and sheltering, caged animals or sad, trying to like pull at the emotional heartstrings. And I think some of that is good, right? Like if you have an emotional message, you want the audience to be able to connect with that, but you don't want it to overwhelm the story. Like you still want to leave room for how do you take action, and how do you understand the real issue that's going on. So I think you can use emotion, but you want to make sure that it's not kind of overkill, because I think if you rely too much on that emotion, it's easy for people to check out because that emotion is coming off too strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and we've got another question from Nikki, and she says, where can we go to find a pet life-saving dashboard? So are any of your dashboards live or available to the public?
Yes, good question. So it's bestfriends.org/2025. And so you can learn more about our mission, and it'll take you to the overall Best Friends site, and you will find our pet life-saving dashboard there. It is public and live.
Fantastic. I'm going to go and check that out. But thank you so much. I didn't know anything about best friends, so I've learned a lot today. And Utah looks beautiful, by the way.
Yes. And my Twitter handle was on the first page at Jami Delagrange. So if you have questions or you want to reach out, I am always available. So
Awesome.
thank you.
We'll add it in the chat as well.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So